Vladimir Putin projects an image of absolute authority, a leader seemingly unconstrained by institutional checks or domestic rivals. European intelligence assessments describe a Kremlin paralyzed by internal fractures, where the leadership is increasingly consumed by the threat of a coup. Western sanctions and the ongoing war in Ukraine are actively eroding cohesion among the Russian elite, replacing collective loyalty with deep-seated paranoia. Putin is responding with a systematic coup-proofing strategy, purging old allies, seizing private assets, and promoting personal bodyguards to the highest levels of government. These moves secure his immediate position, but they leave the Russian state increasingly brittle and incapable of functioning without his direct arbitration. By centralizing power so thoroughly, the regime has eliminated any institutionalized mechanism for a peaceful or predictable transfer of power. Internal assessments currently place the risk of a coup or a sudden leadership transition at up to 30% over the next 18 months. The resulting domestic instability forces the Kremlin to look beyond its borders for the economic and political support needed to maintain control. This inward focus on survival creates the very vulnerabilities that external powers will exploit to gain leverage over Moscow's strategic future. The no-limits partnership between Russia and China provides a useful diplomatic facade, but the underlying reality is a deeply one-sided dependency. This visualization maps China's role as Russia's economic lifeline, absorbing fossil fuel exports while supplying the critical technology blocked by Western sanctions. Beijing is leveraging this imbalance to dictate terms, stalling negotiations on massive infrastructure projects like secondary gas pipelines until they favor Chinese interests. By severing ties with the West, Putin successfully insulated his regime while simultaneously forfeiting his nation's long-term sovereign economic control. Russia is no longer a strategic peer in the global order, but a junior partner increasingly subordinated to Beijing's regional goals. India has become the primary collateral damage of this shift, struggling to maintain its strategic autonomy while remaining tethered to Moscow. This breakdown shows the scale of the trap. India relies on Russian oil and sources 90% of its army equipment from Russian factories. The war in Ukraine has paralyzed this supply chain, delaying delivery of advanced defense systems like the S-400. New Delhi now fears that a weakened Russia will transfer advanced military technology directly to China, India's primary rival along the Himalayan border. This risk is forcing India to initiate a non-Russian future, starting the slow and expensive process of decoupling its military from Moscow. India is paying billions for a partnership that is actively degrading its national security while empowering its most dangerous neighbor. The inevitable end of the Putin era will not likely come through a democratic uprising, but through a volatile and secretive elite power struggle. One path leads to radicalization, a security state successor, modeled on Yuri Andropov, who pursues even more extreme militarization and hostility toward the West. Another path is retrenchment, where a leader like Nikita Khrushchev emerges to secure economic relief by offering de-escalation while keeping the autocracy intact. The most dangerous path is fragmentation, a total collapse of central authority that triggers regional infighting and leaves Russia's nuclear arsenal unsecured. Because the entire system depends on a single leader, any transition will radiate a severe shockwave through the global geopolitical order.
A retrenchment scenario would deprive China of its most aggressive anti-Western partner, giving the West and India much-needed strategic breathing room. However, if Russia fragments, China could move to absorb its vast northern resources, creating a massive security crisis for the United States and India. Putin's project of imperial resurgence has resulted in a hollowed-out state, one engineered solely for his personal survival rather than national stability. The drive for absolute control ultimately traded Russia's independence to Beijing, ensuring that Putin's final act will be a destabilizing crisis that redraws the map.